Hello everyone, and welcome to my little random sketch in my sketchbook. You can see my nice big mess here on my table. I've got a whole bunch of random supplies scattered about to see what it is that I need to get to first. So these sketches are done from a Pinterest page that I had set up, and honestly, I don't know if it's still even working, but I'll try to link some stuff below if you guys are interested in sketching along. I'm using the Pilot Eno 0.7 color mechanical pencils, and they're pretty nice. They're not light fast at all. I remember writing down a label, and about a month later, the writing was gone. So this will not last at all, because it lasted for about a month or two, and I think it was the summer. So if you get any kind of sunlight, they're not going to last. They're just a great sketching tool, which if you're going to ink over it, I think is probably a good idea. Here I'm starting off with a basic head construction. It kind of follows the Riley method. It's not explicit. I think, once you start drawing for a very long time, you kind of develop your own kind of mishmash of methods. But this one seems to work out pretty well for me, at least for this kind of angle of face. And you can kind of, make the circle bigger, more narrow, to fit any face that you're looking at. And I like to put that little circle on the forehead to tell you there's a flat plane there, and there's a brow. It's going to connect that kind of triangle, the triangle being the two eyes and the nose, which are the things that we look at instinctively as humans. And then everything else kind of follows. And I feel like once you have that little triangle established, you can kind of do whatever you want with the rest of the face. Now here I'm kind of cutting off a little bit of the face so that it could fit what the model looks like and what I think is pleasing to the eye. The model is beautiful, so that's not like a thing. But it's like sometimes my hand will not kind of comprehend what I'm trying to get at. So you kind of have to go over and over and over your line to find the right line. So I had a little bit of a hard time with this pose. It was a little bit flat, a little bit square. Sometimes when you have a pose that's too square, it kind of tricks you into thinking that it's much flatter than it is, and so you kind of go along with it, and then your figure kind of looks a little bit boxy and not as animated or alive. So you get this stiff pose here, and I'm trying really hard to not let that bother me. I think eventually, once I add the line work and shadows and stuff like that, it turns out a little bit better. So here I'm going with some alcohol markers. These are Ohuhu markers, the brush tip. And I'm doing a gradation of pinks. And the pinks do shift around because they're not like right next to each other in the color scale in terms of hue. So some pinks are going to lean more magenta, and some of them are going to get a bit warmer, as you can see in the lighter tones. So I'm just sculpting out the shadows and leaving the light kind of exposed. Often I think people kind of use alcohol markers interchangeably, which you absolutely can do. They will blend together. As far as the system that Ohuhu uses to color code with either numbers or names, I think mostly just the numbers. They don't have a very good system in terms of categorization and how to make your way from one color to another. So sometimes you'll have like a MG 007 or something like that, which is like, I don't know, mild green, gray or something like that. I don't remember the colors that they use. But with Copic markers, they have a very specific system, that allows you to know the hue, the saturation, and that will allow you to navigate the colors that you need. So if you're ever going to buy a set of pinks and want to shift your pinks magenta, or you want to shift them more orange, you can actually go into the Copic chart and see where your colors lie. And there, with those colors and the numbers, you can actually find out what colors you need to match the hues that you have. And it's a very good, easy system. I'll kind of go over it in a different video if anybody cares to know about the Copic system and why it's named the way it is. So here I'm using the Brunswick color pencils. They have a very small collection, but I think they're really nicely pigmented. Unfortunately, they don't have a lot of colors, and I don't know that they're available in every country. Here I'm adding some greens to the pinks because her hair will be green. And so that's going to give a bit of like a third kind of light source. It'll bounce off whatever the light is there and kind of get into the skin. And it's a good way to incorporate colors that you're like, it looks kind of like paint by numbers, where you have, you know, an object that's yellow and another object that's blue, another object that's, you know, some kind of neutral, and they don't look like they belong together. The benefit of having color pencils and alcohol markers is that they blend in together, and you can always use that to your advantage and kind of introduce every color in your palette into little tiny parts of your drawing so that it looks cohesive. I'm also using a bit of a kind of ugly palette. So purple and green, or pink and green, I think a lot of people dislike that color combination, and I thought I would challenge myself into using these kind of not so well-liked color combinations to see if I can make it work. It's always nice to do this to see where you can go in the drawing. Here the pinks shift a bit more magenta, so into the purple cool side. The greens stay a bit warm, but I do make the background a bit cooler, and introduce some blues in here so that there's kind of a bridge to the colors, and you're not getting that kind of vomit green and sickly purple look. So here you can see that the main source of light is warm, so you could think that's the sun or some kind of incandescent light. But I'm introducing the warm orange tones into the pinks and into the greens. And in the green parts, the yellow is a bit cooler because it is interacting with the green. And with particular tools like color pencils or alcohol markers, you can really blend in these colors seamlessly because they just bleed into each other, and that's the purpose of them. I'm also introducing a bit of greens into the shadows as well as blues to kind of give you that contrast, as well as kind of incorporating all the elements of the sky, the sun, and the local colors being green and pink into the illustration. So here I have that kind of cooler, darker tone of green, which kind of is like this dark teal. Sometimes I'll use its opposite, which is an orange, so that it can get much darker than you would otherwise with even a darker teal. And you can do this with alcohol markers, you can do this with paint, you can do this with color pencils. Mix in its opposite, and you'll get a darker, deeper hue. And it looks great because then you don't have to use just straight black, because sometimes black will flatten an image. Here I'm going in with another Pilot Eno blue colored pencil. These are really fun to work with sometimes. There's days where I just don't want to work with a color pencil or a normal color pencil, and I go in with a mechanical pencil because it feels like I can get that edge a little bit cleaner. Again, I'm doing the face construction very similar to the previous model. And I do take a bit of a shortcut here on the mouth, just because I've drawn so many times this part of the body that it kind of is second nature to me. Here I'm making the eyes a bit more bulbous than maybe what they actually look like, just to give it that three-dimensionality in that figure. So this is a very similar process to the previous drawing. Sometimes you have those days where you kind of approach drawings the same in that one day, and sometimes it's very different. I think for this day, the drawings came out kind of choppy at the beginning, and then towards the end, obviously your hand is more warmed up. You get a little bit more used to what you're drawing. Sometimes the paper you're using and the tool you're using makes it feel like you can't work with that tool, so just switch your tool. Don't worry about trying to acclimate to your tool just yet. You can always pick up a pen, or you can pick up a pencil or a color pencil or paint. Switch your medium to your liking just so that you can get yourself something on the paper. Don't let the tool defeat you, and always take a break and approach something differently than you did before. So with this one, I went with the skin color being green instead of pink. And again, with the sickly colors, it looks really weird right now, but I think eventually it does work, because I tried to blend these things out. And kind of, again, the blue is a little bit of a bridge with these colors. You'll see a very similar approach that I took with the hair I'm going to do with the skin. We're going to get in that lime green color for the lighter shades, and I leave out some of the highlights to give it that kind of glow. So I'm approaching the hair in this kind of blocky style because it is a dread. I think it's dread. And they kind of clump together like big braids. And, sometimes you want to mimic the surface or the texture of the item that you are drawing, and it'll just work out really easily and simply. This isn't a very complex drawing. It's just a sketch. But, you can sometimes practice conveying the shape or the texture of an object. I'm very lazy when it comes to doing too much detail, simply because I like the viewer to look at an image and kind of make up the shape or the colors on their own. And I feel like it's a funner experience for someone to kind of be engaged in the drawing or painting. Sometimes people will say, I like the sketch better than the final piece. And I think it's because the sketch leaves room for your imagination. I think it's very similar to a good story or a good song. When some things are not said, or there's really good gaps between the music and the notes, and your brain kind of loves solving that puzzle. And I think the same is something similar happens with a drawing. When everything is given to you, you kind of get bored. And then you feel like, well, why am I looking at this in the first place if it's not exciting me as a viewer? And I think good photography, good storytelling, good illustration gives you that kind of excitement and that puzzle to solve in your brain. So here I decided to stick with just kind of a yellow highlight. I didn't want to do a full background or some kind of squared off frame, just because it's just a simple sketch. You're just trying to get some colors in there, colors that you don't really use. There's no need for them to be a masterpiece. Just kind of get what you want out of it, have fun, and experiment with weird new colors and tools. Anyway, that's the end of the video. This is my my junk that I use for this video. I'll try to link everything down below if I can find it. But yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.